YouTube! Westone. So this is a Spectrum Series 2. So not a Spectrum 2, Series 2. Technically there is a difference because I do actually have a Westone Spectrum 3 in 1983 or something. Before the Westone Spectrum series came out, they moved. There used to be a guitar called a Concorde, which in 1983, 1984 I think it is actually, my Spectrum 3, which is thunder shaped but sorry, if you don't know anything about Westone guitars, I'm a bit of a geek. There's plenty of Westones in a playlist somewhere for all these Matsumoku's home brand. But there are earlier Westones. They bought the brand off someone else. They used to make Westone for an American company, and then that company went bust, and a couple of years later they decided they were going to make their own home brand, which is quite a big company. Had a research and development section, so they actually did some pretty interesting stuff which most guitar companies don't bother doing. So like the Westone Thunder and the Paddock were the first couple, then there was the Concorde. Thunder was kind of like a sort of Les Paul type thing, humbuckers, Gibson scale, and then the Concorde was sort of the Stratty one, which originally had a slightly odd shape. I do have a Concorde bass that's this shape, and then it became the Thunder shape but with a Fender scale. And then so basically at one point there was a Spectrum 2 and a Spectrum 3. The Spectrum 3 is the one I've got, which I think is HSH, and the Spectrum 2 is, these are kind of replacing the Concorde, so the sort of Fendery one. I think the Spectrum 2's got 3 single coils, something like that. And then in 1985 they brought out a Westone Spectrum range, so you get like a DX and an SX and an FX, various ones. They were big sellers over here. Don't get them in America. And then, so that's the Spectrum series. And then in 1987 the Matsumoku factory closed down in Japan, and they sold the name, I think, to a Korean company, and then they continued making Spectrums, or they continued making Westone stuff, and they again redesigns to be more modern. This one doesn't have a serial number where it normally would have on a Westone. So there you go. I think I'm putting this at 1987, 1988. What I think's going on here is these pickups are too similar to the ones that used to be on the Spectrum bass. It was my first ever bass, which I hated. It wasn't this shape. To not be those pickups, basically. So I think these are using up some of the old Westone Japanese parts, but the bodies and the necks were made in Korea, who are starting out. Either that or the company actually sourced them out. Not 100% sure. There's a really good Westone site called westoneinfo.com, which will have all this stuff on it. So I've got a Westone Pantera, which has a very similar headstock to this. It's the last of the Japanese ones. And this one being the Spectrum 2 series. I really like the shape. It's maybe not the super most interesting and different shape, but I quite like it. So we've got sort of super strat appointments now. So we've got 24 frets. Cool looking inlays. Why have dots when you can have ovally things? Pretty cool. Still get the tuners still look kind of the same. I'm having problems with my leads just now. They all seem to be dying on me. This has got a horrible sticker on it, which I've not yet picked off. I was going to pick it off, but I've been building a Strat today, so this is kind of a wee bit late. There is another video I did earlier on, the last of my run of 6 wiring videos, where it gets really complicated and you'll get lost. First one, pure, so easy that nobody couldn't understand it. Last one, yeah, I think probably a lot of people will get lost during it. But there you go. Yeah, so these are obviously not the original knobs. These are Strat knobs. I do have black sort of Telecaster knobs, which I'm going to put on it. 2 switches and a pickup selector. It's got the 18 volt, the two 9 volt batteries in the back, active circuit. Not 100% wired correctly, I don't think, but I'm not 100% on that yet. It's got a really cool bridge on it as well, like one of your high mass kind of interesting. I don't know if I've actually ever seen, I don't think I've ever seen this exact bridge before, but just a little bit more complicated. The Spectrum I had, I'm going back 25 years when I had my Spectrum bass, which the reason I didn't like it was because I didn't like the look of it and it was dirty. and it probably had a high action. I didn't know how to adjust any of these things. I just never liked it because it didn't look like I shouldn't be playing it in the Stones. Now I'm happy with it. So we've still got the Westone Eagle logo on it as well, which has resurfaced relatively recently. About 10 years ago, it came out on BC Rich copies. There was Westone BC Riches, which basically had absolutely nothing to do with the original Westone. Just actually the guitar were made by Star Sun, because my partner Civet had one in China, bought one for a £5, and it was Star Sun, but it was exactly the same as the modern Westones. There's also other Westones. You can have a look on the website; it's really good. Yeah, so it's actually really pretty good. Made in Korea. Turn it on, see if it works. That does work. So we've got a pickup selector switch, which probably has my favourite ever switch tip on it. Expect a crackle. I don't know if you can see that. There, it's just a really cool switch tip. Such things impress me. That's what I'm getting impressed with, like Gretches and stuff. I actually kind of like a Gretsch. It sort of reminds me a little bit of, see the valve and the tyres of your bike. Get a wee bit of a vibe going on about that on it. I think it is an original switch tip rather than being actually a valve. Like a cap. Valve's the right word, isn't it? But I really like the switch tip. And we've got a volume for the neck pickup. So both these volumes are full, and this third one I'm kind of still deciding what it's doing. So that's the neck pickup and the bridge pickup. Both. Right, so back onto the neck pickup. This last knob, actually these do say volume, and tone on them, so that might be correct. It appears to be a tone pot, but I think it's something to do with this active circuit. I don't think yet that these are active pickups. I think it's just an active circuit that's in it, especially that 18 volt thing, very similar. Well, I'm just assuming because it's 18 volt, it's the same that what was in my Aria Laser bass from 1985, and I think what's in the Thunder 1A or 2A or whatever, the active ones, similar system where it's not active pickups, they're not EMGs, but it's got like an active boost circuit in it, which basically takes your normal pickups and just means that you've got a bit more control, rather than all you can really do with a normal tone control is take away the treble, whereas this can add treble or add bass because it's got a wee preampy thing going in there. Technology's not been super kind to this sort of circuit because it runs off 2 9-volt batteries, and apparently they run down really quickly. You've got to remember to unplug it when you're not using it, otherwise the battery stays on. It's good, but nowadays you can get little tiny preamps and stuff don't involve a big massive circuit board. It's a much simpler, a much easier, and they've got like digital technology and microchips and FETs and all these things to try and keep it a little bit so you can get it much smaller and much cheaper and much more powerful in a wee preamp than you don't need a big circuit board with lots of bits on it to do it. So if I turn it all the way down, which makes it a lot louder and bassier. So what I think this is doing, if it's anything like the Aria one I had, it's a bass boost when you turn it down. And when you turn it, so in the middle, on the Aria I had a centre indent here so you could kind of turn it off. That's kind of in the middle, and then you put it to the full. It kind of does the opposite. So I think what this is doing is when you put it up full, it's boosting the treble and cutting the bass. When you put it down at nothing, it's cutting the treble and boosting the bass. I think is what it's doing. I think this pot might have been replaced. I'm going to take it to bits and have a look at it. I just figured I wanted to do a wee video on it first. So I think in the middle, kind of there, you can actually hear it kind of becoming just normal. Which I suppose is actually quite simple to use. Right, there's two switches which I don't know what they do yet. When I was fidgeting with this before, I was only playing it through my wee Black Star Fly just to see if it worked. So we're on the neck pickup. I think this might be a coil split. Right, okay, it's not a coil split. What that is, there's passive mode, basically. Because now the tone knob doesn't do anything. So what does the other switch do? Apparently it turns it off. Okay, it doesn't turn off. That switch currently it seems to turn off the neck pickup. Let's give it a wee. They don't have pole pieces, but yeah. Okay, I was just making sure that when you put it to neck pickup, it was actually doing that. Yep. So that switch turns on the bass, so there's that switch off as a normal. Then you turn it on. It's amazing how much better it sounds immediately as soon as you start understanding what the knobs actually do. Now I know that it does that. It's kind of, yeah, it's making sense. One of the things I like a lot, the main advantage of having passive pickups with an active boost rather than having active pickups is if the batteries run flat in the middle of a gig, which happened to be with my Schecter, you can just turn off the active circuit and okay, you don't get your super bass boost, but this is what you want. Oh no, the battery's gone flat. That's acceptable. You can now continue the gig and okay, you're not getting that exact sound you want, but you're still at least working, rather than battery goes flat, I've got no sound, there's no more bass. End of gig. When I say it goes flat, it could also just break. Yeah, so if we go to the bridge pickup, does this? So yeah. So even when you're on the bridge pickup as well, the tone control does nothing unless you turn on this button. I've got it set to treble there to bass. Right, so we're on the bridge pickup. So it's right. So right there's the boost circuit off. I wonder, is that putting the two of them in series? Because that would kind of explain, would it? Why it turns off the neck pickup. Now it's doing something different. What the heck's going on in this? So I was playing it earlier on and saying that the other switch seemed to turn off the neck pickup. Now it doesn't. Yeah, so we're not sure what that does. That phase? So it definitely seems to cut it a bit. Tone control doesn't do anything. Yeah, so I'm going to have to take this to bits. I'll probably just video that as well. As I said, this is only a wee bonus video because I've already got my guitar wiring 106 coming up anyway. The bass itself seems to be really good. I was always a bit sceptical about the Korean guitars from Korea of this era because all the companies did it. They all kind of stopped. Everyone apart from Ibanez initially, although they did kind of do it as well. But I think that's partly because in 1986 they got Steve Vai on board and then the Ibanez Gem was a hit. So they managed to continue making things in Japan, whereas everybody else, all your Washburns and Area Pro and Vantage and all the other companies just went to Korea and made cheap rubbish. I'm sorry. They're all right. Some of them are good, but I think maybe the problem is when they were making the guitars in Korea, same as what's happened now in China. Here's your range of guitars now made in Korea, so if you bought the cheapest one, it was really cheap. The higher end ones were good. I think that's what's going on. I've actually just acquired an Area Pro Viper from round about that era, so it seems to be quite good as well. Touchwood. So far, I don't know. It's in bits, so I haven't actually played it yet, but it looks good. This sort of thing, so good. Another thing, again, you can't be going blaming China for making cheap guitars because they were told to make a guitar that comes out the factory for a tenner. So they can make a guitar for a tenner in a factory. Might not be the best guitar in the world, whereas if you give them 30 quid, they can make a pretty good guitar coming out the factory, but not if you ask them to make it for a tenner. It's like, no, they build it to your own specs. I think that's kind of what happened in Korea. In Japan, I think because of labour prices and stuff like that, they were willing to do cheaper guitars like that one there, but the quality level for the cheaper ones was the same build quality. Okay, it's got cheaper parts, it's much more simple, doesn't have the fancy binding, doesn't have the fancy paint, but they built it to the same standards. Whereas once Korea started coming in, they were willing to they didn't have that, not being racist again, Klingon thing that the Japanese have with honour and stuff like that, not wanting to put out something that's not very good. You don't very often get Japanese stuff that isn't like of a high quality with honour and stuff in it. I think that is racist, but I mean in a nice way. It's, it's stereotypical, but yeah, I think that. So I think, especially when it got to the whole thing when all the Japanese companies were fighting each other to make the best guitar, the best budget guitar. They were sitting there, and if you look at the cheapest Westone and the cheapest Aria and the cheapest whatever Washburns and stuff like that, they were pretty really well built, but maybe didn't have the world's best tuners or the world's best stuff. It was all good, but maybe not high level because it was a cheap guitar. But they didn't make mistakes with the rest of it. This is very well built. Again, I can just tell. I've gone through so many guitars. I can tell as soon as you start playing it, as soon as you look at it, whether it's a good one or not. Just how much time they spent building it. A slight element of guitars of this age is this has survived for 40 years, right? So if there were issues with the frets being not blah blah blah, it's been worn in and it's got some vibe to it. I mean, it has been played. You can kind of tell it's not one of those ones that you get. I've actually, my Fender Music Master bass, I bet it's American, but it had a little bit of, why is this, quite a lot of dents and stuff on it, but there was virtually no play wear, and it's like, why is this? And it's because it didn't play very well. It does now, I sorted it, but it was like, it didn't play very well. So sometimes you get like a suspiciously good condition guitar that hasn't had any work done to it, whereas all these things, how many sets of strings well, it's a bass, so 40 years, probably had half a dozen sets of strings on it over the years. If it was mine, 2 or 3 sets of strings over the years. So I'll stick on a drum loop and have a wee jam to end it. Basically, it's just a wee bit of a chat about this. So once this is a lovely guy donated this to JPAX. Unfortunately, it's not really. What you're getting is a pure killer bass. They're not worth a lot of money though, I don't think. Even the Japanese ones, now they're starting to creep up. And I'm still looking at going like that pair. Oh no way, they're worth 250 quid now. There's no way they should be worth 250 quid. It's like one of an original Spectrum or this, assuming it's clean and not broken, is miles better than anything you can buy just now for 500 quid. People are you buy with your eyes on the internet. Again, I'm having a wee bit of a discussion on. One of my commenters, one of the Steam team, the Malcoholics, commented as I was on a video I was doing the Phoenix telly actually, which is kicking about. Was that period I bought another Harley Benton? Oh, it's really good, that. And it's just, and I don't like them. I'm maybe just It kind of depends what it is you're used to, I think. I'm just used to, the problem is, which obviously took me a while to get to this point, but once I started realising that once you're getting the Japanese guitars, like specifically, well, these are my two most recent ones. They're normal looking, they're just Strat and a Telly copy, but I knew what I was looking for by that point, as opposed to it's not a normal. I mean, these are not Squires, you know. Well, they are. They're the same as the very first Squires, the ones that are made in Japan. They're not. They're not like modern guitars. They're just a different level, and that kind of comes in. I mean, you can get good guitars. I mean, look at this Squire one here. Yes, technically, I mean, it plays. It looks amazing. It plays really well. Blah 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 blah. But it doesn't have the attention to detail and the quality, the handmadeness, the mojo that the Japanese ones have. Partly because they're 40 years old or 50 years old, and I don't know how good they were. The wood's dried out, and it's just like something, you know, age just helps it, especially if it's been, you know, this piece of wood's been vibrating for 40 years, so it's really used to being a bass. This is used to being a bass, whereas if you buy a new guitar, it takes a while to, the wood's got to straighten out, gets used to being in tension and drying out and blah, 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 all that stuff. So it kind of with the Harley Benton thing, it kind of depends what it is you're used to. You know, if the only guitar you ever had was, again, it comes down to probably not so much now, but it certainly used to be 20 years ago when I started playing, that people would have a guitar and this guitar's shit, it's got a really high action, so they would buy a new guitar because the one they had, their old one had a high action. But you don't, if there wasn't a case of looking up the internet to find out how to adjust these things or whether it could be adjusted, or you don't want to break it. I totally understand that as well, people not wanting to touch a guitar. I remember my Schecter, when I first got that, my Schecter Telly, it was like just when I'd started the internet, I was like, I've got the Schecter, what is it, blah blah blah, and I kind of found out, it was like, yeah, there'll be a serial number in the neck pocket, so I just take the neck off, and I'm like, but if I take the neck off, I might ruin it. What happens if it doesn't go back on again, right? What happens if something changes? And all these things, which it was my dream guitar. I don't know, I didn't pay a huge amount for it. It's the second most expensive guitar I've ever bought. But I didn't pay a huge amount, but it wasn't 50 quid, you know what I mean? Whereas when I started building guitars myself, I started off with one I found in a bin, you know, one of my pals was throwing it out, and I was like, who cares? It's like, it was only 20 quid's worth. So I was just bolting bits together and trying adjusting things and being a bit brutal and stuff like that, learning how to do it without actually damaging something expensive. You know, it's like, I was wiring guitars and stuff like that when I was working out how pickups worked. I wasn't doing it on guitars that cost hundreds and hundreds of pounds. I was doing it on shite ones that were basically in the bin and totally uneconomical to fix. You know, it's like, basically, if you're sitting there with a guitar that's maybe worth 50 quid if it works, and it's missing pickups and stuff like that, it's going to cost you money for the pickups, and you've got to pay someone to put it in. Immediately, as soon as you start doing that, you've spent more than what the guitar's worth. You know, this guitar in decent conditions and you know, working is worth 100 quid. So here's a Harley Benton or a Squire or something like that with bits missing for 50 quid, and it's like, well, if you're going to do it yourself, fair enough, but if you're going to pay somebody to wire it up for you, or especially a shop's going to cost you 100 quid, and then, so what have you got after that? You've got a guitar worth 100 quid that you just spent 100 quid on. Yeah. Uneconomical. You went off it. Wee bit of a rant there. Yeah, but someone talking about Harley Bentons, and basically, no. It's still a no. Maybe they're kind of, they're not really alright. What I'm saying is, for those prices, if you look about properly, you can get a Yamaha, an Ibanez, a Westone, something like that, that's actually good. And once you get used to playing the guitar, you'll realise, oh my god, it's so much better. Full bass. bass boost. Stop playing this just now. Once this has been, as I said, this one's getting JPACs. Once this is JPACs, I'll do a better demo of it, because then I'll know actually what the circuits does. It's very difficult when you don't actually, you're not 100% sure. Totally as it is right now. Got a gig tonight with the Black Sabbath band. I would have no issue using this as it is right now. Absolutely fine. I can get a sound that I like. Absolutely 100% giggable. No issue. Once this is painted up, it's going to look amazing. I'm not super keen on black guitars, but it's basically because you can't see it. You know, it's like, look at it right. If this was a photo right now, what shape is it? And you're kind of like, because I'm wearing black trousers and the headstock. What shape's the headstock? Just get black shit behind it. You know, you want it to be a bit white guitars, white. Yeah, not being racist, but white guitars, yes, totally get that. But it's like you see that between the two black ones. Yeah, I like it. I like a white guitar. And a brightly coloured one, and things are a bit different. But again, talking about the Harley Benton things and guitars of that ilk, like your modern sort of cheaper guitars, the difference between, you know, that and any of that's the wee red bass, but any of these ones you can see here, maybe not the wee red bass, that's a speciality thing, but all the Washburns I've got and the Aria Pros and stuff like that, the difference between them and a proper genuine American Gibson or Fender is not very much. This much. The distance between them and a Harley Benton is this much. And the price difference between them and a Harley Benton is this much. And the difference between them and a proper American Fender is this much. Yeah, I think maybe a wee bit of an epiphany there. That's how it works. Because I like a good buy. I don't spend an awful lot of money on guitars. I mean, I do have some ridiculous things come my way through various acts of karma and stuff like that one there. There's no way I should. There's no way on God's clean earth, the flat earth, that I should have a guitar like that. It's ridiculous. All handmade, one piece, all the most expensive stuff on it, and it's probably the best guitar I've got. I mean, you know, it's that much better than, you know, these or some, you know, it's totally that much better, no problem at all. It's this much better than a Harley Benton or a Squire Classic Vibe or that, even though that's good. The Squire, I like it. Being a 12 stringer, it's a little bit alien. It's actually maybe just a little bit strange for me actually playing a 12 stringer that's actually quite easy to play. Because back in the day when I had one, I had the Hondo Fame one, you the only one you could really find was that Hondo, or if you got a Japanese Fender one, but the Japanese Fender one was 500 quid plus. I don't know what they are now. So it was probably better, but there wasn't really any option. You didn't have Harley Bentons and you didn't have Squire Classic Vibe. They just didn't exist, so you couldn't get, if you wanted a 12 stringer one, you had to make it yourself. So I kind of did. Yeah, so there you go. Half an hour of just ranting when I wasn't the thing, mate. I think I'm seasonally. My mood is affected by the weather. Today it was minging. I know it's like, Scotland's great, blah blah blah. And it's like when I was walking to the shop in the snow, and it's like, it's quite bright and white, and it's like, it's cold. Yeah, that's fine. Today, the sun never came up. It never got light. It kind of went to a sort of dull grey. I mean, I think it's now night time. It's dark now. Yeah, but it kind of. I was like, got to the point I was sitting there, got up this morning, and it was like, oh, it must be like, really, really early in the morning. It's like, oh no, it's 9:30, and it's like, why is it still dark? And then it's like, by the time it got to noon, it was like, that's the brightest time of the day. That's when the sun apparently is at its highest. It shouldn't still be dark. Still dark. Not dark, but not very nice. And so I had to go out. I went to Lidl when it was even worse. Out driving and it's just horrible. So you just get at this whole vibe. And I think it's just the fact that everybody's the same, you know, especially here. I just remember being at uni and it was a pure nightmare in the mornings during like December and January. You know, it's like get up, it's dark, go to the train station, it's dark, get into off the train, get into uni. Oh, it's starting to get a little bit lighter. Into the building under fluorescent lights. Yeah, okay. Lunchtime comes, you get outside to actually go and get something to eat, and it's like it's still kinda dark. It's not exactly bright, you know, it's not daylight, it's back in, out, dark, walk home, dark, 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 black. Yeah, horrible. I do actually have a daylight light bulb, that one there, which actually I got it for this kind of exact problem about 2 years ago. I put it up there, and it was like pure. It did noticeably make me feel better. Couldn't get to sleep. I had actually had it in this light bulb, and I really started noticing that basically at night I just wasn't tired. It's because there's some chemical that UV light gives out to keep humans awake during the day, which you need. I don't know, whatever that is, and I found out really I can't have that as the main light bulb, because if I have that, it's just like pure. You know, it comes midnight, and I'm like, is it lunchtime? It's just like brain, no worky, confusing signals. What a load of twaddle. Anyway, still got. I'm nearly. I think I'm at 3,961. So hope it'd be nice if I could hit. I'd love to hit. I think my 4K thing on Saturday night. I don't know whether I think I'll probably get a bottle of Bucky. I'm sorry about the Saturday night live stream thing. I know some people, my pal Alex, is like, they go out on a Saturday night so he doesn't get to watch it on a Sunday. He can rewatch it during the day, but it's not the same as actually being there. So again, I might do. Don't know. I can't. I was going to say I could maybe have like a couple of beers on a Sunday night, but that's drinking 2 nights in a row. That's never going to be a good idea. I think on a Sunday night I might put out a normal video and do a short live stream if anyone's about, for the people who are out on a Saturday night or the people who don't do Saturdays, just and have it a little bit more guitar related, where people can actually ask serious questions and get a serious answer, not get sarcasm and humour and talking about nonsense because I've been drinking Bucky. But all in all, so back to the point at hand here. The Spectrum bass, don't knock them. I have been. I was sceptical about this, but this is not what I was expecting. This is a lot better than what I was expecting. It is right in the era of guitars. I don't, stylistically, don't suit me. Talking about the late 80s, early to mid 90s, when the Super Strat was the thing, I just stylistically looking at them, they don't really do anything for me. This, because it's a bass, I get it. I like this. I quite like the pointy headstock. It is a Super Strat bass, but it's a bass, so it doesn't suit. Whereas the actual guitar versions are less interesting. I don't know. Maybe I've changed my mind. Maybe I've grown up a bit. I just remember when I was looking for guitars when I was starting to play. We're talking 97, something like that. So a little bit later than that. Most of the guitars you saw second hand, which is obviously where I was looking. You know, you get a guitar that's 5 years old, it's going to be half the price of a new one. Most of the guitars I saw were Super Strats because 1997. So the last 10 years has been nothing but Super Strats. It was just lots of them, and it was just like, have you not got like an SG or a Strat or a... Well, basically, have you not got an SG was what I wanted. I didn't want a Super Strat, although they are good. And now I'm kind of getting into it. I've got the Ibanez RG. I mean, that's the definition of a Super Strat. So I've changed my mind a little bit. And I've got a new Aria in, which I'll probably by the weekend have up and running. I think it'll probably be getting J-Paxed as well. I'm not really sure exactly what I'm going to do with it. Floyd Rose, 24 frets, pointy. The sort of guitar that 10 years ago I just kind of going, yeah. But technically, brilliant guitars, just look-wise, because I mean, looks do matter. We are but shallow beings, and I get it. That's why I can see why someone would think that, the guitar, we're not cheap anymore, but you used to be able to get the Yamaha ERG or the Pacificas pretty cheap. You used to get the ERG ones. I bought probably half a dozen of them for less than 30 quid each over the last 10 years. Not seen any forever. Quality-wise, brilliant guitar. Everything totally rock solid on it. Every one of them miles better than anything you could ever get by Harley Benton, right? But I get it, because it's not a particularly interesting looking guitar. whereas a Harley Benton one looks like a Telecaster or it looks like a Strat. So I get that, and because it looks like a Strat, you're like, oh, it looks like a Strat, oh, da da, and you feel that Hank Marvin or Mark Knopfler or John Frusciante or whatever because you've got a Strat as well. I get that. I get that. The fact that a Pacifica doesn't look like that, it just is better across the board. I do get that. So I mean, I hate bad mouthing anything. My main issue with the Harley Bentons is the fact that everyone seems to say they're good, and I don't agree. And there's a lot of people who get, because they're so cheap to produce, a lot of people get sent them. Harley Benton, send me some. Do it. If you, nobody's ever going to watch 35 minutes into one of my videos, but the thing is, if they did send me one, I'd be honest about it. So if they had sent me one and it was shit, it'd be fine. Again, I think the elements of some of that is there probably are ones that are quite good. So you might find that, right, we're sending, not, I've got no qualms about doing this. I don't blame them for doing this at all. But they're sitting in at Thoman, and it's like pure, all right, blah blah blah. YouTube channels wanting, we're going to send them the new blah 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 Telecaster or whatever. Let's get half a dozen out the boxes, and we'll send them the best one. Fair enough, sort of. But they don't send you the best one. They send you the one that comes off the shelf. So you might not get the best one. And also you're sitting there in the situation, like if I was doing it, if you've given me... I'm actually quite annoyed I've not been hit with that yet, where I've had that, the problem of wondering, I've been given this, so I've got to give a good review, and if I do a good review of it, they'll send me more stuff. Kind of thing. Actually, Joyo Bantamps. I saw a YouTube, he didn't have that many more subs than me, I think he had about 10,000. Joyo sent him a couple of those Bantamps to do demos, and he was up here, yeah, so he was having this exact same struggle I'm talking about just now that I've not had, where he was going, well, I was sent it, so I can't give you an honest review, so I'll just demonstrate it, sort of thing. The thing is, I've had one of them, it's now over at Jen's house. I really liked it, so what are the new ones like? I mean, they're only 120 quid new, so you could send it to me and I'll give you an honest review. And I already liked the Fender Bassman one, so genuinely, without any sort of goading. So if you actually sent me one, I'd probably give it a good review. And I would give it a proper review, because I actually get quite a lot of views on that, because most of the reviews you see are very techie ones, rather than being a real world situation. You know, it's like where I'm standing in front of a camera with a mic there and it's plugged into an amp and I'm playing it. They're all very much more in a studio, blah blah blah, into the DAW, you know, blah blah blah. So you're not actually hearing what it actually sounds like. I always felt that with the Black Star Fly as well. So yeah, so what does the Black Star Fly actually sound like? You're sitting there, there's a mic almost the same size as the Black Star Fly up against it, and you're like, that's not what it actually sounds like. That's not how you're going to use a Black Star Fly. You're going to use a Black Star Fly in a room this size, sitting playing your guitar. So that's kind of what I'm trying to record. Yeah, so ranty. I was going to do my another guitar lessons that everyone missed. Just have another. I think it's basically the only reason anyone watched that, because it had a catchy title. So I might do another one that's maybe not quite as long, and I'll try and get some more information out at the start rather than complaining at my sore finger. Which, to be honest, is still. I'm not going to say it's sore, but it's still not. It's not as unsore as all my other fingers. Out of all my fingers, this one's still the sorest one from stabbing into that wall. Don't do that. Rock on. Catch you later. And actually hit the button to